Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf. It's the beginning of December, the 6th actually, when this video will go up. So it's time for my December TBR, and for those of you who might be new to the channel, TBR for me means not to be read, or of course the book should be read, but it means to be released. So at the beginning of each month I look at the new releases and then I pick a couple, 3, 4, 5 new releases that I find interesting and want to share with you. All the books I will mention in this video have come out yesterday, so on the 5th of December. So I won't mention release date for every book because they all have all the same release date. And I start, as I usually do, with literary fiction and a debut novel, and this one is by Naima Coster, Halsey Street. Naima Coster grew up in Brooklyn. She has a background, a Dominican Republic background, and that also shows in her novel. Her debut is about Penelope Grant, an artist, a failing artist who lived in Pittsburgh for some time, but now moved back to Brooklyn to care for her father, who is ill, who's ailing. And Penelope doesn't recognize the neighborhood anymore. The gentrification is a big issue, but also her relationship to her mother Mirella, who moved back to the Dominican Republic. So the book, as I understood it, is a reflection on the relationship between a mother and a daughter, but also a lot about Brooklyn and how the neighborhood has changed. The Kirkus review called it a quiet, gut-punching debut. I will leave the link to the review down below. And I thought it sounded interesting. The topic interests me, especially gentrification. So this was my first pick for the December TBR, Naima Coster, Halsey Street. The next book I want to mention is a historical fiction, and it's called The Enchantress of Numbers, written by Jennifer Chiaverini. Jennifer Chiaverini is an American author who writes historical fiction. She's written 7, 8 best-selling historical novels, and this one, Enchantress of Numbers, is about Ada Byron King, who was the daughter, one of the children, but the only legitimate one, if I remember correctly, of Lord Byron. Ada was born in 1815, and she was an heiress, of course, but she was also a mathematician. And the book, The Enchantress of Numbers, is focusing on that aspect of her life. She was a very gifted mathematician, and she, together with another man called Babbage, she wanted to develop a calculating machine, sort of the first computer. I found Ada and her life fascinating, and when I saw that there's a new historical novel coming out in December about her and her life, and from a really well-known author of historical fiction, I thought this has to be included into my December TBR pick. So this is The Enchantress of Numbers by Jennifer Chiaverini. The next book is nonfiction, and it's a real treat for everybody who is into sci-fi and also reads nonfiction, because it's by Ursula Le Guin, No Time to Spare. Ursula Le Guin, of course, doesn't need any introduction. She is almost 90 now, and she has been writing sci-fi novels, sci-fi fantasy novels for I don't know how many decades. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know how much I love her work, especially her science fiction novels. Left Hand of Darkness is one of my all-time favorites. If you haven't read it, you absolutely must. But Ursula Le Guin also has written poetry. It's less well known, and she writes nonfiction now and again. And like I said, she's almost 90. She was born in 1929, and she's still going strong. And this new collection, No Time to Spare, it's not a memoir in the strict sense of the word, but it's more a collection of blog posts and shorter pieces where Ursula Le Guin talks about aging and about her general life stuff. So from what I understood, I read a wonderful review from Mel, who also has a channel, Mel's Bookland Adventures, on Goodreads. So if you're interested, you can check that out. But it's more Ursula Le Guin having a chat with you. That's what I understood from Mel's review, and that sounded utterly charming and interesting, and certainly for me, a diehard Ursula Le Guin fan, I really look forward to this book. So if you are also interested in Ursula Le Guin and a more chatty kind of memoir, reflections on life and aging, and all kinds of things, then this No Time to Spare might be just something for you. And of course, we end with science fiction. No better way to end this after a book by Ursula Le Guin. And the science fiction novel that I want to talk to you about for December, as a December release, is the Ada Palmer, another Ada Palmer, The Will to Battle, which is the third and final installment in her Terra Ignota series, which started with two like lightning, and then you had the 7 surrenders, and The Will to Battle is the last one. Now, if you're not familiar with this series at all, I talked about the first book at quite some length, Two Like Lightning, and it's not an easy sci-fi series to get into. It's set in the 25th century, and the world is organized in hives and corporation alliances. The technology is very advanced, but you also have this recurrent theme of Renaissance philosophy. So it's a mixture of a philosophical novel packed in sci-fi, and I remember, and I talked about this on the channel before, when I first started the Two Like Lightning, the first book, I put it down after 20 or 30 pages. I just couldn't get into it. And I left it lying there for a couple of months, and then I picked it on a whim. I picked it up again, and I thought it was brilliant. So I think it's something that you probably need to invest time in to get into the world, and I think it's not for everyone who reads sci-fi because of the heavy philosophical aspect of it. But we follow this main character, Mycroft, who is a criminal, and in this society, criminals are not jailed, but they are they have to work for free or for food for other members of the society. So that's their punishment. And then you have all kinds of characters. In the beginning, it's really confusing. And then one of the main themes running through the trilogy is a child bridger who has a special capability. I'm not going to tell you what if you haven't read the first book, but this then is developed in the second book, 7 Surrenders, and I'm sure it will come back now in the third book. I don't think, I mean, I haven't read the third book yet, but I don't think this is a series where you can just, pick one book and start. It's more like N.K. Jemisin, the Broken Earth series, where you really have to start with the first book and then work your way through. But if you already started with the series, maybe you have read Two Like Lightning, then you will be as thrilled as I am that the series finally concludes with the last, The Will to Battle. So this was it for my December TBR, the to-be-released books, 4 books this time, a debut, an historical fiction, a wonderful nonfiction, and of course a sci-fi novel. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Talk to me down in the comments whether any of the book interests you, or whether you have any new releases in December that you are excited about. I'm always looking forward to talking to you in the comments, as you know, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.